examining where we are today as a country. Jerrod A from Young Voices up late with me to talk about this and more on the Final Five. Jerrod, you wrote about this for the National Interest. 17 years later, and I think back to October of 2001, they announced that the U.S. bombed Afghanistan at a Ravens game. It was up on the scoreboard. People cheered. That was 17 years ago, and we're still there.
Yeah, obviously 9/11 was a terribly tragic event, and it deserves to be remembered. And it deserves to be remembered solemnly. But that doesn't mean that everything that happened afterward, everything that we did as a reaction to it, has been good. In fact, I would say the vast majority of what we've done since then has been largely counterproductive and bad. I mean, Afghanistan, the initial bombing and invasion was justified, but now we're approaching 2 decades of occupation. We've destroyed the social fabric of the country, and we've killed thousands and thousands of civilians, and we're no closer to any sort of resolution than we were 17 years ago. So I say that it's, the politics of 9/11 are obviously, it's a very powerful thing in America, but I think it's time to move on.
I think when you look back and you look at September 12th and the way this country was and how everybody was together and even politically, the approval numbers for President Bush at the time were through the roof. But there was a lot of disagreements that ensued. You mentioned about Afghanistan, Iraq, which is still to this day, I mean, you still hear about when it comes time for Hillary Clinton to run for president in 2016, there's still a reminder that she voted for Iraq. There's a change of command in Afghanistan right now?
Yeah, so the U.S. just installed its 9th, I believe, commander of the U.S. forces there. His name is General Miller, I believe. And at his hearings, in his Senate hearings over the summer when he was being confirmed, I mean, he said himself, he's like, I can't give a timeline for when we're going to leave Afghanistan. And frankly, I mean, I find that sort of unacceptable, but it's devastating that it's not politically unacceptable. Now almost 2 decades. People who were born after 9/11 will soon be able to enlist and go to Afghanistan. College freshmen this semester, this fall, college freshmen were not born. A lot of them were not born before 9/11. I think it's time for something different.
How is the approach to Afghanistan and really everything else in the region? How has that changed with the change in administrations from Obama to Trump?
I mean, not much has changed. I mean, Obama tried his hardest to put sort of a timeline on Afghanistan withdrawal.
Which, and to be fair, I mean, when you're right, because people were saying, well, you're kind of giving the enemy a heads up when we're pulling out. That's not the right way to go about it. And we know that John McCain was somebody on the side of saying we're just going to stay put. We're going to keep on fighting there.
Yeah, I mean, but it comes down to it. We have to ask ourselves, what more are we willing to sacrifice in terms of monetary? These wars have cost trillions of dollars. How many more lives are we willing? How many more American soldiers are we willing to sacrifice? How many more Afghan civilians are we willing to kill before it's time to do something different?
I got to ask you, where were you on 9/11?
In the 6th grade, my teacher came in and she said, a plane crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. I didn't know what the World Trade Center was, and my sort of naive response was, "Well, did anyone die?" It's very sad when you think about it. I mean, like 9/11 has shaped my adult life, at least the politics of my adolescence and my adult life in a very significant way.
I ask you that for a reason, because I myself, I was a senior in college at the time. Obviously, we were in different places, but we've lived in the same world since then. And we hit this anniversary every year, and we see the observances, we see the reading of the names, the events at the Pentagon, the events in Pennsylvania. What point are we going to get to an anniversary where we approach it differently, where the conversation changes, where we know that we're back to normal, if that's ever going to be a thing?
I mean, I don't think we'll ever be sort of normal. It will never be like a pre-9/11 normal again. Frankly, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe if it's I'm not sure really what the breaking point politically is on this, because it hasn't happened yet. You think 17 years, almost an entire childhood. You think that would be close, but it hasn't happened.
What kind of lesson? I mean, I guess the point is there a lesson that it's finally gonna hit us and say, okay, this was the takeaway from September 11th and how we reacted as a country?
Well, I mean, I hope the lesson is that we overreacted. I mean, you mentioned the Iraq War. That was very much in the war on terror fold. There's other things that we've done that have compromised our values in the years since.
Yep.
Torture, Guantanamo Bay with indefinite detention, extrajudicial rendition, surveillance. I mean, this is not even foreign. We're talking domestically, surveillance on Americans and privacy rights. I hope that in some time we come to realize that while it was understandable that in the immediate aftermath that we overreacted.
And when it struck me for a second, when you said you were in the 6th grade, but then you realize it goes back to the fact that was still 17 years ago, and we have all changed, and we've learned so much, and we're still going to learn a lot more. And Jerrod A, always good to see you from Young Voices. We're going to tweet out your piece on this on our Twitter.